Hello my dear students, good evening to all of you. I am Shaukat sir, your physics tutor, and today we will try to understand the most important concepts of your chapter first, that is motion. The most important concepts are distance and displacement. Firstly, we will try to understand what is actually the distance, and then we will try to understand the displacement. Let us begin with the distance. Distance is nothing but it is the actual length of the path traveled by an object. What does that mean? That means if the object has traveled over the path and it has actually traveled over that path, that will be termed as distance. We will try to exactly figure out the definition of distance by the diagram which I am portraying here. Let's suppose that the object has started its journey from point A and it moves like in this zigzag path, and finally it has moved and reached up to the point B. That is the final point of his path, final point of his journey. If we try to understand what actually the distance is, we have to observe the actual path traveled by the object. From this figure, it is very clear that the object has actually traveled over the path like this. I am putting the arrows. It is the actual path traveled by an object like this, putting an arrows. This denotes that the object has traveled over that path. Suppose the path length, that is the path length over which the object has actually traveled, we will suppose that the length of that path is equal to 900 kilometers. So we can say that the distance traveled from A to B, that is the actual path length, equals 900 kilometers. Because why 900 kilometers? Why 900 kilometers is the distance? Because the object has actually traveled over that zigzag path. So we can say that the path length equals 900 kilometers. That is, distance equals 900 kilometers. Now we will move towards the next concept, that is displacement. Displacement is very simple to understand. What is the exact meaning, exact definition of displacement? Displacement is the shortest path between the initial point and final point of the journey of an object. So let's closely look over the definition. Shortest path between the initial and final point of the journey. If we will closely look over this journey, that is the journey of the object from point A to point B, we will choose point A as the initial point of the journey, and we will choose point B as the final point of the journey. Now, what is displacement? It is the shortest path between the initial and final point. That is the shortest path between A and B. And if we will try to see which one will be the shortest path between A and B, that will be always a straight line path. That means if we will join the points A and B, that is the initial point and final point, with a straight line like this, and this straight line will give you the value of displacement. And suppose that the displacement equals 100 kilometers, that is less than the distance, because distance can be greater than. Why greater than? Because it is the zigzag path, so zigzag path can be greater than the shortest distance. So we have come upon the conclusion, the shortest path between the initial and final point give you that displacement. Now we will try to understand these two concepts more from an example. Let's try to accurately figure out what actually the distance and displacement is. We will try to understand these two concepts with the help of an example. Yeah, this is the example or numerical. Example or numerical. For example, a car travels over a circular track of radius 5 kilometers. Calculate the distance and displacement after half revolution. That means, yes, I will give you the brief understanding of this example. What the example says a car travels over a circular track. Let's have a circular track here. This is the circular track. This is the circular track with center O. Okay. So let's suppose that the car has started its journey from point A and it moves in clockwise direction. I'm putting an arrow. This indicates that the car is moving in clockwise direction. But what is the radius of the circular track? The radius of the circular track is absolutely 5 kilometers or equal to 5 kilometers. Okay. Calculate the distance and displacement. You have to calculate the distance and displacement, but after half revolution. That means when the car makes half the revolution, it will definitely reach to point B. And point B, from point A to point B, it is exactly the half the revolution. When the car makes a half revolution, completes half revolution, it starts its journey from point A and finally it will reach the point B. Okay. So you have to calculate the distance and displacement from point A to point B. Okay. Firstly, we will try to understand what is the actual value of distance from point A to point B. We will understand firstly the distance after half a revolution. Okay. So as far the distance is concerned, we have understood the definition of distance. It is the actual path length, actual length of the path. So actual length of the path, that means the car has traveled over this path, over this circular track, and finally it has reached to point B. That means the car has exactly traveled half the circumference of the circle. You can check here the boundary of the circle. The car has taken half the revolution. That means it has exactly traveled half the circumference of the circle. So the distance traveled is exactly the half the circumference of the circle. Circumference of the circle divided by 2. So we know that from the mathematical formula, circumference is determined by the formula 2 pi r divided by 2. And we have the value of r here, 5 kilometers. You can check here the radius is 5 kilometers. So it is 2 pi, and we can put the value of r as 5 and divide by 2. 2 and 2 will get cancelled out. 5 pi kilometers will be the distance. Okay. So this is the distance. Now we will try to understand the displacement. We will calculate the value of the displacement here. Dear students, firstly we will go through the definition of displacement once again. What is the actual definition of a displacement? The displacement is having the definition shortest distance between the initial and final position. We can check here the initial point is A and the final point of the car is B. So what will be the shortest distance between A and B? That will be the straight line path. We will just join A and B by a straight line path like this. So we can say that from O to A, it is the radius, it is 5 kilometers. Similarly, from O to B, it will be again 5 kilometers. Okay. So what will be the length of the shortest path, the straight line path, that will be equal to OA plus OB. Okay, that is 5 plus 5, that is equal to 10 kilometers. That means the total displacement traveled by a car when it makes a half revolution equals 10 kilometers. Hope you understand the definition of distance and displacement, and that is all for today, and have a great time ahead. Good luck.